Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to the Tony C. Davis Show, coming to you by way of the Raven International Network and the amazing women and men of power. Again, I am your host, Tony C. Davis, where we share everything from faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, and anything in between. So if you have some valuable content you'd like to share, reach out to me at thetcdshow@gmail.com. That's thetcdshow@gmail.com, and we can share your valuable content. So stay tuned for this week's show. Hey guys, and welcome to the show, the Tony C. Davis Show. I want to say good evening to you. It is 11:39 here in the city of Cedartown. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us, those that join us now and some that may come in a little bit later. We do appreciate you for this impromptu video or recording, I guess interview you want to call it. Again, I am the host, Tony C. Davis, here, and coming to you live here on Facebook. Also, we'll be coming to you by way of the Raven International TV network on Roku and iTunes. And so I do appreciate it. And I have my good friend tonight, Mr. Tony Simmons Jr. Tony agreed to just jump on with me and just share this, again, an impromptu video. As you can see, Tony is in the dark right now. He's actually in his car. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. I'm glad to be here. Hope the lighting works a little bit.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you for joining me tonight. And hey, guys, and like I said, we're just going to do an impromptu video or recording tonight. Again, we will be actually streaming this on Roku. I've actually got a Roku channel, and I definitely want to get some great content. So if you have some great content to share, just reach out to me. And again, for those that don't know you, aren't familiar with you, just share a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Florida, Daytona Beach. Moved up to Georgia in 2008, so just a hair over 10 years ago now. And been a Georgia native ever since. I met my wife while I was in Georgia, living here, and was actually on my way back to Florida when I met her through a mutual friend and decided to stay. And I was in southeast Georgia, so the Savannah, Jessup area. My parents are pastors, been pastors all my life. And so grew up as a PK. They moved to Georgia in 2008 and started a new ministry there, Marketplace International Church, and it's still been been thriving ever since, been going ever since. But I was headed back down that way and met my wife and got married and decided to move on up to the Atlanta area. And from then on, the ball just kept rolling. Started a family. I have 2 children. One, my first son's 5 months. My daughter is about to turn 3 in just a few days. And that's been my life, personally up here, married 2 children, and then started working. Been working on and off in business entrepreneurship the last 10 years or so, but really launched out in starting a business on the side in addition to working a conventional job, but started a coaching consulting business, a family business 2 years ago, and sort of moved away from freelance independent work to actually forming a company with my family. And that has been going pretty well, and we're just moving on and on. So that's kind of the background of my life, between ministry, family, business. It all sort of, comes in one big circle. And it's what I've watched my parents do, my whole life. I graduated from my mom's school. She didn't like a lot of the things that were being put out there in public schools. And a lot of the private schools in our area, between being just incredibly expensive or just to put it blatantly, racist, it was very difficult to find private schooling for minorities, for Black children. and just not liking a lot of the things that were being put out there in public school, and a lot of the violence and a lot of things that were happening. My parents, they always had sort of a pioneering attitude, and she said, "Well, I'm just going to start my own school," and that's what she did. And that started in the sixth grade, and we went all the way up and graduated from my mom's school. So I grew up seeing things like that my whole life, them starting stuff from scratch, whether it was a ministry. Our church started in our home, and then we moved to Jessup in 2008. We started the church in our home again, in our living room, and now we're on a large campus. So I've grown up seeing stuff start from scratch. I've grown up whether it's business, ministry, family, and in a nutshell, that's the story of my life, and that's how I operate today in different ways.
Well, normally, guys, I like to kind of prep my guests as to, possibly what we might talk about. And like I said, this is an impromptu video. But I will say, surprisingly, with not prepping Tony, he touched on something that, we've talked about before. And I don't know if you're prepared to talk about this, but you mentioned that your mom started school basically because there was racism, which we have
hmm
faced, I have faced, and possibly, I guess you have too. And so, with that being said, how did that impact your life, as a young man?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, when I was younger, racism in particular was invisible to me, just because I was ignorant to what it looked like as a child. And I think the older I got and the more blatant it became in the media, it was easier to sort of have a reference point to see, okay, that's what that looks like when this person says this or does this. That's what that sounds like. So I was encountering it all along, but I don't think I always recognized it. My parents did their best to educate us in a gentle way, but educate us in a way where it didn't instill bitterness in us and anger, and it didn't perpetuate this idea that white people or Asian people or whoever were an enemy of black people. And I think that's one of the problems that we see when parents educate their children on the trappings of racism and things like that, because the presentation is so important, and the meaning that you sell your children on is so important, because you can instill bitterness into them, you can instill anger, you can instill the judgments into them, and to sow that into their hearts, and then they have this widespread negative view of a different race of people, and so I think my parents did a good job of trying to educate us in a way that didn't happen, and allowing us to recognize things and come back and ask questions. Why did this person say this? But now I will tell you something, and this is very interesting when it comes to racism. The very first place that I experienced it was actually from other black people. The very first place that my first reference point was from other black people. The first time I was ever called a nigger was from another black person, not a white person. First time I was ever made fun of because my skin was, too light and I wasn't black enough. Or you talk too white, so you're not one of us. And we don't like you because of that. It was actually amongst other blacks. And then sadly enough, that became sort of another reference point when I did finally start to experience it from white people and from other races, Jews and Italians and things like that. So um, it's we can go on and on. There's so many different directions we can go with that right there. But I would say it impacted my life overall. I think it
Yeah.
impacted my life in a way to see that um, this is something that's handed down. And racism is educational. And that's how I defined it. And it really helped me understand how I need to relate to people, how I really need to relate to my own children. And that is to educate or re educate them about who I am, regardless of my skin color and the cultural background that I come from. So that's how I chose to look at it, and that's how it's impacted my life, to be an
And
educator.
you know,
That's what I've chosen to be.
this is again, we didn't prep for this, but this is a tough topic to address. And as you say that, and I want to thank my wife. I believe she's on, and Pastor Dr. Clay Horton, he's on. He said exactly. And this is a tough subject to address, and without really prepping for it, you didn't allow the racism or whatever you experienced to cause you to feel like a victim. I would assume.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Um, I just, and I honestly, I give the credit to my parents for that. They instilled
Mhm.
such confidence. They spoke such life into me at a young age, until when somebody spoke the opposite, it was so foreign to me, it was natural to reject it. I had a
Uh,
strong
that's
sense of
powerful.
identity at a young age, but that has to come from parents. They spoke life to me, and more than them speaking life into me, they modeled it. Like I said, all I know is my parents starting things from scratch, watching them as a child. I'll give you one example. There was a time when we really didn't have, we were going through poverty, just point blank. My parents were full time ministry at this point. And I remember, and this is why it's so important for parents to model the Word of God if they're Christians, or just model whatever they believe in, even if they're not. Just model it, demonstrate it, live it. More than you say it, live it, because that's what sticks with your children. And I remember my dad always talking about speaking things. And as a child, I believed my parents, just because they're my parents. But I remember one day, my dad, he opened the cabinets, and I tell this story all the time. He opened the cupboards. The cupboards were empty, and we didn't have, we really didn't have anything. And my dad, he said, in the name of Jesus, I speak food into these cupboards. And he began to name the food. It's full of rices and cereals and snacks and da da da. And then he told me and my sister, he said, well, I want you to write down your favorite snacks. And we wrote them down, and he said, now we're going to speak it together that these cabinets are full. I kid you not. This is why this stuck with me. Why I've gone through things in my life where I felt like I want to just run away from the church and ministry, and I've been hurt by that, and I felt like but I've never been able to escape the fact that this is real because of what I saw happen next. I remember on more than one occasion, more than three occasions, somebody knocking on our door, friend of the family, somebody from the church. Pastor, God told me to go grocery shopping for you all. And they would come with bags and bags of groceries and everything that we wanted as children, the cabinets were full. That stuck with me. And so all the things in life that I've saw my parents go through with people, with racism, what they modeled to me is what went into my foundation and what taught me how to live when I encountered those things.
So, and that too is that powerful, statement there, because they not only said it and talked about it, they demonstrated it.
That's it. That's it. Yes, sir. They did. They were demonstrators.
And so, as a pastor's son, being in the church, where do you think, or do you think the church has failed at? And I'm not talking about every church, but I'm talking about universally. Do you think there is failure within the church as reaching people where they are and actually making uh, life and Christianity and faith tangible?
I do. I do. I've been on both sides of this thing here. Growing up in ministry, my whole life. I mean, literally, when I was an infant, my parents were youth pastors. So I was born into this thing, and it just became my life experience. And one of the things that like I said, that has affected me was the demonstration. And I don't see a lot of demonstration today, um, in the church, in the American church. I'll just say the American church, to be very specific. The Western church, I don't see a lot of demonstration. There's a lot of great messages. There's a lot of smart preachers. There's a lot of gifted preachers. They're great orators. They can hold a crowd in the palm of their hand with their language. They can tap into the emotions of people. They're even spiritually gifted, but when it comes to really living the word, demonstrating it, and when I say living the word, to be very specific, something as simple as just love. Really learning how to love people through very difficult times and difficult places in their life where you see them to the other side of a challenge, or giving where the church becomes the hands of God and to its community. And it's learning how to give to the community, to strengthen the community in some way, partnering with different agencies in the community to breathe life into some aspect of the community: education, local government, economy. What is the church's assignment to be? What is the church's demonstrative assignment in society? And I think what's happened is we, as the Western church, have gotten addicted and we've gotten comfortable to just having church, and that's our
Wow.
agenda. That's our focus. That is our goal, to have great church. And because that's our goal, we have spiritually, see, legally they did the separation of church and state, but in the spirit, that is actually determined by us, not the world. And we have followed suit with what they did in the natural, with the laws and things. We didn't have to have a separation of church and state. Just by choosing to be a demonstrator, you can take the very presence of Jesus Christ into an educational classroom. You can speak in such a way. You can speak prophetically without saying I prophesy, but you can literally reveal what's in the hearts of leaders. You can speak with vision about where education should go, where finance should go, where local government should go, where people in those arenas want to submit to your word because you have real solutions. And that keeps us from truly being separated, because in the spirit, we're still linking up, we're still engaging, we're still being effective. But we have failed at that because our agenda has been to be great church attendees, great church goers, great performers, etc. within this arena we call church. So that's my long answer, but that's what I believe.
And man, you hit the nail on the head. I just said maybe 2 days ago, I'm so tired of just doing church. Again, guys, this is like an impromptu video or recording interview, and we're touching on a couple of different subjects. But I just said that the other day. I'm so tired of just
Yeah.
I love the church now. Don't get me wrong. I love the church. I love the foundation that that I had blessed to be a part of. But at the same time, there has to be, and Jesus is the key. Jesus is the way. Salvation is
Mm.
key. But beyond salvation, and there must be a way for us to reach people where they are, address the solutions or find solutions for some of the problems of people. Because again, if you're a person that is hurting emotionally, financially, in relationships, and you come to church and
Mhm.
you give your life to Christ, then something should change in your life, and the church should be a conduit to be able to reach that person or allow that person to reach different levels within their life and overcome some of the challenges they've experienced. And again, that's some of the things that I was thinking about. So I'm just tired of just
Mhm.
doing ordinary church.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned something
Mhm.
about
Absolutely.
you mentioned something about prophecy and being prophetic, and we're going to have to come back and address this because I want to do a show specifically on kingdom work, kingdom messages, and the prophetic that needs to be heard. And you and I have talked before about, doing a show together and actually doing a project together. And we really need to do that. But
Yeah.
I'd like to come back sometime and really address that topic of kingdom work, not just church work, but kingdom work, and having a prophetic voice, a prophetic demonstration, uh, prophecy, lives being changed for
Hmm.
people. And we
Yeah.
really need to put something together and think about this, pray about this, and really share this message because, I've connected with some great people, yourself included. You don't necessarily call yourself a prophet, but man, you have a prophetic gift. You know that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you have blessed us tremendously. I just want to say, guys, Tony's the type of person you don't have to call him pastor or bishop or prophet.
Right.
When
Right.
you're confident in your gift and you're confident in who you are, you don't necessarily need the titles. I respect those that have those titles. Definitely respect them, but I
Hmm.
appreciate you, my brother, for being humble enough to not just desire a title.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's always been my attitude, and maybe because I've just seen and heard so much and growing up in this ministry, I've always just wanted to be known as Tony, but I think that's because of how I look at myself. At the end of the day, when it's just me and God, I'm just Tony, and I'm his son, and I don't really mean to say that to just sound. I hope that doesn't come across like a cliche, but I mean that's genuinely how I see myself in ministry. I introduce myself as Tony. You know that people.
Yeah, that's
It's funny, I introduce myself as Tony. I don't introduce myself with any titles. Not that I don't
right.
believe in them.
Yeah.
That's just who I am.
I guess that's why we get
Yeah.
along.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, man, I wanted to just jump on here with you and just introduce you guys. Tony, again, man, you and I really need to get together and
Hmm.
do a show, put a project together, and share your gift with the world because you do definitely have a gift, and we merely scratched the surface, guys. One more thing, you recently had a son. Tell us a little bit about your son, Ellis, and
Yeah.
your desire to leave a legacy for your family.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a deep topic for me. Ooh, man, that's my heart right there. So my son, Ellis Joel Simmons, was born the 26th of December, and as far as a legacy is concerned, um, the way that I define legacy is what whatever was in me, whatever God put in me, moves through me into the life of someone else, my children, or those under my influence as a leader. And that vision or that gift or whatever it is, it lives on through them in greater measure. And that is my simple definition of legacy. It lives on in greater measure to have a much greater impact. And that's my desire for my son and my daughter. Um, I want what God has put in me to move through my life, pass through my life, and enter into theirs in with greater thrust, greater impact, and move through theirs in the same way. And very specifically, when I say that, I'm talking about the wisdom, of God, and the wisdom and the insights He's given me about a number of things, about myself, about the world around me, about Him, about spiritual things, about natural things, about finances, about so many things. And that's just one topic about the wisdom of God. But there's just so many other things, and to me, that's what it is to really have a legacy. It's not just about the work that I do or the material things that I leave behind. Legacy is people, and I define legacy through people and what comes from the Lord that moves through people. And that's what I want the most. I told my wife, so much of what I do is for my children. Even completing a doctorate degree, it's I want them to see it. I want them to see Dad did it, and if Dad can do it, I can go for it. There's so many things that I will go after, because I just want to be a demonstrator to them, because I know they're called to great things, and they need to see and hear and feel someone close to them accomplish it, do it, say it. They need to hear someone say something that nobody else is willing to say, or everybody else is afraid to say. They need to hear their dad say it. They need to see their dad or their mother do it. And if they see us do it, they hear us say it, they feel whatever it is coming from us, it provides a foundation in their life to move out on whatever God is leading them to do. And that is the legacy to me. That is a true legacy. So that's what I would leave it with that.
Hey, my brother. I thank you for that. I appreciate you guys. This is Tony Simmons Jr. You're in Dallas, right? Dallas, Georgia.
Dallas. Well,
Yeah,
currently
man.
in
We got
Cedartown, but been in Dallas, yes.
okay. All right. Well, guys, again, man, we got to get together and again put a project together. We got to do some work. Yeah. And again, I just
Absolutely.
appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to just share a little bit with us. Thank my wife and also good friend Dr. Clay Horton for jumping on. Also, guys, again, this is Tony C. Davis Show. If you have some great content to share, just reach out to me. We want to share your story with the world. Again, we're coming to you live here on Facebook and also coming to you by way of the Raven International TV network on Roku and iTunes. Tony, any final words for our viewers and our listeners before we sign off?
Yeah, if there's one thing I could say, one thing that's impacted my life, sums up everything about me, and maybe even the things I've said tonight, is two words, and that is live boldly. Live boldly in everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that is expressed through you. Live boldly, and you'll go places and do things you never imagined for the Lord. Thank you for
Well,
having me
you
on.
guys,
It's been
you
an
heard it.
honor.
Hey, again, bless you, my friend. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Tony C. Davis signing off. You all have a blessed evening. God bless. Hey guys, so that's a wrap for another show. I really do appreciate you for joining us today. I hope that you found some value in today's show. And listen, if you have some valuable content to share, reach out to me at thetcdshow@gmail.com. thetcdshow@gmail.com. We'll share your valuable content with the world. Now listen, also you can follow me live on Facebook where I actually do some live recording. So I appreciate you, my friends. And in the words of my good friend, Mr. Willis Wright, I'll see you at the top or from the top, because the bottom is definitely way too crowded. God bless.